Firmware, flashing. This section covers flash and SD card, firmware flashing for PlutoSky. The section including boot mode switch configuration, hardware connection, Vivado driver troubleshooting, firmware flashing, DFU flashing and verification. The section also offers fixes for device recognition issues, enabling you to finish firmware flashing and restoration, step by step. There are two Type-C USB connector for the PlutoSky. The debug connector supports JTAG firmware, flashing and serial port message printing. The serial information printed by the debug connector is more complete than that printed by USB connector. There are three boot modes for the PlutoSky JTAG: boot mode, flash boot mode and SD card boot mode. The JTAG mode is used for debugging and firmware flashing. It can flash firmware into the onboard flash chip. Only JTAG mode supports flashing flash firmware via Vivado software in your computer. The PlutoSky does not have DFU button. Vivado flashing will erase flash and DFU firmware, and the device will automatically enter into DFU mode after power on. Flash mode, load boot files from onboard PlutoSky flash chip. SD card mode, load boot files from TF card which contains boot bin. These three boot modes are determined by different pin level configurations of the two mode switches. JTAG debug mode, switch 1 connects to VC3V3, switch 2 connects to VC3V3. XP boot mode, switch 1 connects to VC3V3, switch 2 connects to GND. Factory default boot mode from onboard flash. SD card boot mode, switch 1 connects to GND, switch 2 connects to GND. Note: dip switch settings must be operated when the device is powered off. Settings are invalid under power on state. With the boot mode configuration clarified above, we can move on to the firmware flashing operation using Vivado in JTAG mode. Note: the PlutoSky is pre-burned with official firmware by factory default. Ordinary users don't need this operation. Power off the device, set the boot selector to JTAG, then power on. Connect the PlutoSky's debug port to your computer via a Type-C data cable. Power on the device. The PWR indicator will light up red. Launch the Vivado software. Click Open Hardware Manager. Click Open Target. Select and right-click. If Vivado fails to detect the device, navigate to ENT64 Digilent, run install Digilent exe as administrator, follow the wizard to install the driver, restart your computer, then reopen Vivado. Select Add Configuration Memory Device. Select it and click OK. Import the boot bin file from the provided file library. The FSBL-ELF file follows the same procedure. Set address range to the entire flash. Check the 4 configuration options. Wait 3-5 minutes for programming. Flash programming success. Initiate DFU firmware download and flashing. Power off the device, switch the boot selector to flash boot mode. Then connect the device's USB port to your computer via a data cable. Open Device Manager on your computer. If USB download gadget appears under Universal Serial Bus Devices, the previous programming is successful. Locate the flash folder, double-click it, and find Load, BAT in Flash Firmware. Open Load, BAT in the Flash folder, with Notepad++ Sublime Text. We need to find the path to DFU util exe, copy it here. I placed it on the desktop. You can refer to my path to modify yours. Save the changes and exit. Similarly, open Program DFU BAT in the Flash folder with Notepad++ or Sublime Text. Only modify the file path before load to point to the location of Pluto, DFU and U-boot and DFU. Save changes and exit. Double-click Program DFU, BAT and wait for automatic downloading via the command line. Reboot the device. Programming is successful if the done LED is on and the user LED blinks. Or open EIP oscilloscope, click Setting and connect. If the device is detected, the firmware flash is successful. If you want to use the SD card boot working mode, you need to do this SD card firmware flashing, and it is much easier to do this. Use a TF card and format it as FAT30 to file system. Copy all firmware files to the root directory of the SD card. Power off the device, set dip switch to SD card boot mode. Insert the SD card into the device slot, connect device, USB port to PC, then power on the device again. After completing these steps, we can verify the SD card firmware startup. Method 1. Test via cmd command. Open cmd in the folder of io-info.exe, input one of the following commands. Both IP and USB appear as available PlutoSky contexts in the device list. This indicates the device has been recognized by Windows, only the local context initialization failed, which does not affect the actual connection. Continue entering the next command. Note that if you use the SD card boot mode, the default IP address of the PlutoSky is 192.168.2.1, and you can also manually modify the IP address. Method 2. Verify via EO oscilloscope software. Open EO oscilloscope software, add new device, manually input IP 192.168.2.1. Select this option, then choose Connect after loading. Select this option. If the software recognizes a 9361 hardware and displays spectrum waveform, the firmware runs normally. The factory firmware has configured environment variables by source code, which hacked the add chip from 9363 to 9361 by default. If users manually execute hacked commands via PuTTY, repeated environment variable configuration may cause conflict and make the device bricked. If you meet this issue, you can try to restore the device. According to the following recovery steps, this operation erases all wrong custom configurations. An onboard flash to eliminate boot failure. Open the device manager on the computer. Locate this COM port, record the port number for subsequent configuration. Launch the PuTTY software and configure the serial port parameters. Click the Open button to establish the serial connection. Press the OST button one time on the device. The user indicator will stop flashing immediately. Press the Enter key on the computer keyboard. Wait for 3-5 seconds. If the prompt Pluto appears in the PuTTY terminal, it indicates that the U-boot mode is successfully accessed. In the PuTTY terminal under Pluto prompt, enter the following commands in sequence, and press Enter after each command to execute. The erasure process takes approximately 2-3 minutes. Do not power off the device or disconnect the USB cable during the erasure process, otherwise, the device may be damaged. This indicates the erasure is successful. Unplug and reconnect the device to the USB port. Check if the device is recognized in Device Manager. If detected, the device has been restored successfully. Check version information. If you wish to check the chip model, there are two standard verification methods available. Method 1. Check chip silk screen. Check the mark on the main control chip. The standard silk screen of ZYNQ7020 is X7Z020. Method 2. Read via Vivado GTAG. Power off the device, set dip switch to GTAG mode. Connect GTAG interface to PC. Open Xilinx Vivado, enter Hardware Manager, and connect target device. Vivado will automatically read and display the real chip model X7Z020 to confirm hardware correctness. That's all for PlutoSky Firmware flashing, SD card boot, device recovery and chip verification. Follow these steps and your device will work properly.